What's up, guys? How's it going? For whatever reason, I'm having a lot of observer problems today, and I'm trying to, for whatever reason, that's that whole half of the room. Oh, because it's a different time of day, and that's getting washed out, and I didn't set up the light right. Well, you know what? We're talking about being an observer today. We're going to leave in the, or maybe it's the camera. There you go. That was also part of it. The camera was fuzzy. Guys, it's going really well over here in observer land. Jesus Christ. Okay. So on to today's video. Okay. This is sort of like a two-part series that I want to do because it's something that I think about a lot when it comes to navigating the world, getting through life, not just in an OP context, but holy hell, OP to me, like if OP has only two contributions to human society, it is observer versus decider and masculine versus feminine sensory. That's fucking it. Everything else, I am happy to debate, take it or leave it, use it or don't, boop or bop. I don't give a shit. But I will die on the hill of observer versus decider is super fucking real and trackable. And same with the sensory masculine, feminine, right? Or even just the binary coin of are you kinesthetic? Are you kinesthetic or are you visual? And then sub that, are you more tester visual or visual tester versus audio kinesthetic audio, right? So I want to do, it's going to end up being a total of either 3 or 4 parts, right? So I'm going to do one dedicated video about playing the decider game when you're an observer. The next video is going to be playing the observer game when you are a decider. And then, I don't know, I haven't decided if I'm going to split up the sensory into 2 separate videos. It depends on how the first one goes. We might, Harry Potter, Hunger Games it, where we split the last book into 2 movies. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. But let's get right in after you have seen all of my goddamn observer problems to hell in the first 2.5 minutes of this video. Because I think the big takeaway from all of this, from all of OP, from whatever it is you're trying to do, doing more of what hasn't been working isn't going to suddenly work. And I realize that it's like a super old concept and also a super obvious concept when you actually spell it out like that. But it is something that I think that is very easy to forget. And not simply because we are playing to our saviors or throwing a temper tantrum or whatever the fuck fashionable way to demean people happens to be of the day, right? Has nothing to do with any of that bullshit. And it has everything to do with, I think it's really hard to, when you are in the moment, to actually realize how well or not well something is working. It is just hard to have that sort of holistic view when you're in the moment, when your emotions are high, when you're working overtime. I don't care what functions you have, it's just hard to see, right? You have to get a huge data set to be able to go, hang on a sec, is this really working for me, right? And I say that as an observer because one of my big issues as an observer is that when something isn't working, my default assumption is that I'm just not observing good enough, right? Now, part of that is because not only am I an observer, right? I'm an INTJ, so NI at the top and SE at the bottom. Not only will, that just sort of inform my whole whatever, the fact that my SE is double activated at the bottom makes me super, super, super duper aware and conscious of all of the things that my NI is missing, right? Like that void, because I am a glass lizard, is super clear in exactly the way that Shannon's voids are clearer than Dave's. She still has them. She still struggles with her FI at the bottom, but because it's double activated, there's more of a constant tension there. Whereas with Dave, he's like masculine, sensory, whatever, la la la, single activated demon at the bottom of my stack. I don't give a shit, right? But like, when he gets his ass kicked, he gets his ass kicked hard. And it's like, I never in a million years would have seen this coming, right? And I can't get over it, whatever, right? But, so part of it is my glass lizard awareness. But another bigger part is just my overall observerness, right? If you are an observer, you're gonna want to play to your strength of making it about things rather than people. And I don't mean that we are all sociopaths if you're an observer, right? But what I mean when I say make it about the thing, meaning if you can just find the right path or find the right idea or find the right toy or find the right weight, like physical dumbbell weight, I don't know, I'm just making shit up, right? Or if I find once I get the perfect piano, then everything in my life will unfold perfectly from that, right? It's that concept idea of like, it's not that the people don't matter, it's that the people as individuals are trumped by things, plans, ideas, systems, physical constraints, money, like whatever it is, right? And so our instinct as observers, oftentimes, fundamentally, innately, again, whatever terminology you want to use, our instinct is to just lengthen that axis and just keep hammering on that axis. Because actually, at first, that's not the worst way to look at it, right? You don't want to double down on your savior, but a not terrible first plan, if you are an observer, is to focus on whatever your demon function is, right? That's part of OP math too. And so for me, a lot of what I've had to do is to be like, okay, I'm all in on my, feminine NI at the top. Okay, step one, if this isn't working, let me gather some shit, right? Let me masculine sensory for a hot second. Let me SE, let me gather some stuff. Let me try some shit out, mix it up, jump in there, consume, whatever, right? Skib around a little bit. And then my NI will have something meaningful to organize. It'll have better data to organize. It'll be able to see the bigger picture clearly, right? That is a fantastic first step. Do that first. I'm never, ever, ever going to be mad at you for having your default impulse be, let me go straight to my demon and see if that doesn't help solve the problem. Boom. Love it. Sometimes that isn't enough. Just isn't. With all of this coronavirus stuff going around, one thing that I have found really useful is to play the decider game instead of the observer game. And that has helped my sanity so goddamn much. I cannot tell you. Holy hell. Let me break it down. So March 11th, World Health Organization was like, this is a pandemic. We have to take this seriously as a globe, as a whole Earth species. This shit is real. We're like, oh, fuck. Okay. So the observers are now out here just spiraling because we haven't built up the muscle of prioritizing the decider axis. That is a muscle too. Being able to go, you know what? I'm just going to make it about the people. And the tribe-self relationship, that's just going to trump everything, right? We don't have that innately built into us, right? And even if we are aware of it, we have bigger fish to fry oftentimes in the first 20, 30 years of our life, working on the demon function at the bottom of our stack. So we still have to play that observer game for a while. It's going to take a while before we get to go like, yeah, I'm seeing everything. Aha. Maybe it's the wrong axis, right? But I think it's a useful thing to be aware of and to be conscious of, because it'll at the very least break you out of whatever loop you're in, right? And so everyone was freaking out, and then I do what everybody does, which is like, let me message a bunch of people I haven't talked to in years, and just use this as a moment to reconnect, right? But I do it in an observery way of like, connect the world, and right, it's this very abstract concept connection. It isn't, this individual human is somebody to whom I wish to give my time and attention, right? And that is just not a thing that has ever come easily to me. Hence why I am so goddamn aggressively single. Because I have not, it's not that I can't play that game. It's that I didn't know that I wasn't playing it. And I assumed that nobody else was playing it either. Turns out a lot of people are playing that decider game. Turns out being able to play that decider game, pretty fucking important. Just in life, and especially in times of crisis. And through all of this, now that we're about, over 2 weeks in from that, first announcement date, it's been really, really interesting to sort of see how I've been like, oh my God, wait, hang on a second. If I focus on the world, I'm gonna go insane. If I focus, and again, it's part of why I don't listen to what Trump has to say. I don't listen to what Cuomo has to say. I marginally care about what Lujan Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, has to say, because that is where my parents are. Okay, fine. She is somebody whose attention I need, right? My parents own their own business. I need to be aware of, and I'm like minimal, medium, sort of involved in their business and the running of the business. So like, I kind of need to be aware of like, because we're a mental health service provider, do we count as essential? What does that mean for the mechanics? My father is in his mid 70s. What precautions does he need to take to, social distance and safer at home while still maintaining what has been deemed by the government and the CDC to be an essential service, right? Okay, fine. I care about that. And certainly I care about California because that is where I live now. I have to be aware of the things that affect me, right? But it's very, very limited. And I just can't get caught up in like the broken healthcare system, because I would never get out of it, because I can't actually do anything between now and 24 hours from now. I cannot do anything to fix the broken healthcare system in America. I cannot do it. I would love to do it. I would love to be in a room where it happens, not metaphorically, where it's like, all right, we found a bunch of idiots on YouTube and Facebook, and we've decided that you're smart and are able to take a middle position. Can you just like be in the room and facilitate a discussion and just fix the broken health system? I would be like, abso-goddamn-lutely, right? Nobody's asking me this. I don't do that. It's fine, right? But it means I can't get caught up and worked up and thinking about it. I can't be worried about the crazy shit Trump has to say, because I'll just fucking spiral out of control. I just will. which has sort of gotten me onto this decider axis. And I'm like, okay, well, if I don't get to spin out of control about the broken healthcare system in America and, you know, metropolitan infrastructure and, you know, my other calling as a civil engineer, what the hell else do I get to freak out about? And the answer is play the decider game. So I realized that was a lot of preamble. This video might go a little longer than I wanted to, but I think it's an important part coiny topic to dig into as much as possible. So how do you actually play this game? Well, part of it means setting aside your observations, being able to go, you know what? Seeing the whole board doesn't goddamn matter. Doesn't matter. Having the perfect plan, having the perfect resources, having perfect organization, being able to foresee infinite possibilities doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't help. And being able to just acknowledge that half the population isn't even playing that game. So when you come at them, you hit them with that, you know, all right, listen, I got this perfect plan. We're going to stockpile this, and I'm going to have a whole system for the refrigerator, and we're going to boop and a bop and the whatever. They're going to, half the people are going to be like, what? Why? I'm just going to go shelter at home with my friend Kelsey, and we're just going to like live together for 4 weeks, and we'll figure it out because we have each other. And like I hear stories like that, and part of my observer brain just breaks. I'm like, I don't, but what do you, right? Because my observer brain doesn't register that as being a viable option. What the fuck does Kelsey know? She writes shitty articles for BuzzFeed. She's not a medical professional. She doesn't know the things. She doesn't have all the necessary info. Can she put together a plan for cooking and cleaning and maintaining a 2-person house when all she's done is live by herself in a studio apartment? Have we really thought this through, right? But the deciders are not playing this game nearly to the extent the observers are, right? The deciders are like, okay, what humans do I need to align myself with? In order to make this happen, what humans are gonna get me through this, right? Who am I? Who is my tribe? How are we gonna make this happen, right? That's the decider game. So the first step, as I said, just try to pump the brakes on the observer axis, right? You're gonna feel like you're not operating at full capacity. That's because you aren't. That is fine. That is how it is supposed to feel. If you still feel like you're operating at full capacity, playing the other axis game, you are doing it wrong. You haven't pumped the brakes enough. You should feel a little woozy, a little out of control, a little bit like you don't have your bearings for a second. Good. That is supposed to happen. You got to lose your bearings for a second. The next thing you got to do is whichever is easiest, right? So if you don't play on hard mode if you don't have to, right? You're already playing on at least medium, normal, upper difficulty. Don't go to God tier mode. It's not worth it, right? The second thing you want to do is say, okay, so I've broken that first loop of being on the observer axis. Which decider function is your savior? Whichever one is your savior, that's the one that you are going to lean into first, right? So I'm a blast play. Great. My savior, not only is it my savior because I'm blast play, but like lead blaster means that my savior decider function is my extroverted decider, my DE. In my case, it is TE. So I say, okay, how can I just play the EJ game for a second, right? That is not the end of this, but that is the beginning, right? I'm not going to start by playing the IP game. That is unnecessarily difficult, super not worth it. But I am going to start by playing the EJ game. I say, okay, so what is the EJ game? Well, the EJ game is how can I martyr myself for others? How can I serve others? How can I make the lives of the individual humans in my proximity better? Right? That's the EJ game. Before you do that, you got to play the IP game for a second, right? Or whatever your demon is, right? So in my case, I'm playing the EJ game first, the IP game second. And I play the IP game, and I'm like, okay, but hang on a second. Do I like doing this? Is this really how I want to contribute? Is this going to fulfill me? Fuck the tribe for a second. Does this make me happy? What do I want to do? How do I feel FI about the things? Oh, okay. Yeah, those two are in alignment. Great. Now I can go back to playing the EJ game and just play that for as long as it sustains me. And when it stops sustaining me, the trick is not to go back to the observer game, right? The trick is to go, hang on, EJ game isn't serving me. It's not sustaining me. Got to go play the IP game for a second. So I build up that muscle, go back to the EJ game, right? I'm ignoring the EPIJ axis entirely. Doesn't even exist. Again, it's on autopilot. I'm gonna do that no matter what, but I'm not consciously aware of it. I am focusing my conscious attention on playing the EJ IP game. And in doing that, I have discovered, I do these little blasts on my personal Facebook page. And I do these little, somebody joked and they're like, you're Rabbi Raja. And it's like these little half-hour, I don't want to call them sermons, but they are me talking to the tribe and calming them down and telling them what to do. And it is very much like I feel like an EJ, and it's weird and clunky, but it's working, and it's getting it's not getting traction in the sense of like I'm building my followers. No, but it's getting me traction in the sense of like I can tell that this is doing good. I can tell that this is helping some number of people get through the day. Okay, worth it. We're just gonna keep doing that until it doesn't sustain me anymore. And, for instance, I started doing them at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, then I was like, you know what? That's a little late for me. I don't like having to maintain all of this energy through the late afternoon. I have to fucking take a nap at 4 if I'm right. I'm used to school getting out at 3:30. I really wanted school to get out at 2. Like that's when I crashed, was at 2:30. So I'm like, right now I'm in sort of the IP part of that to be like, okay, I get what we're going for. I get the EJ part, like check that box. Let's make sure the IP stuff is in place now too, right? And what's fortunate on the back end of all this is because I'm an observer, I can go back and forth between the EJ game and the IP game. It's not like that part's easy. That's not hard for me. I can balance those two with relative ease, right? I just have to make sure I don't get caught in any observer loops and that I don't go back to, for instance, my mother, my dear sweet mother, she gets a text from her friend who has friends in California and is like, Raja, my friend just texted me. Have you heard anything about them closing the California border? I was like, what the fuck? What? And in my observer brain, I was like, I want you to pause and just say back what you said to me. And I want you to tell me if what you said makes any sense at all. Right? This is what I wanted to say. I did not say this because that would be rude, and she is my mother, and also a decider, and like maybe don't talk to your mother like that because that's impolite, right? But as we were going through this, I was like, okay, hang on a second. I'm not, because I knew sort of in that moment, I was like, we're getting worked up about different things. I'm getting worked up about, okay, well, hang on a second. If this is true, right? It's the improv adage of, if this is true, then what else is true? If this is true, then what else is true? Well, if they're closing down the California border, then that must mean that they're closing down borders in more dense metropolitan areas, and not just the city, but we're talking about the whole, oh, Jesus, right? She's not freaking out about that. She's freaking out about, is my son going to be okay? Am I going to be physically distanced from the human who I rate? Like, those are the questions in her mind. And once I sort of was like, okay, well, step one, we got to solve this problem. Like, step one, my info dominantness is like, hang on, step one, consume, do the research. Okay, we're fine. California Highway Patrol, Nevada Highway Patrol says absolutely. We are not closing state borders. That's ridiculous. I did see reports that they are closing the California-Mexico border, which makes sense for a lot of reasons. If we can't, if we don't have good enough testing to figure out who is an asymptomatic carrier, and like, fine. I can see, and also just the resources of, if you go to another country, then maybe they wouldn't, have the resources to help you, right? We don't know enough, right? Fine. That sort of makes sense, right? But I did the research and I was like, okay, this is fine, whatever. And then it was on the back end that I was like, oh, we were having different conversations, and this is classic Raja and Mom. Raja's freaking out about observer shit. Mom's freaking out about decider shit. And sort of once I started to realize, okay, there are a lot of people out there playing that decider game. Okay, I'm not actually as lost at sea as I think I am. And that's sort of what I want to bring this back around to, is when you break that first pattern of, oh my God, if I can't play the observer game, then I'm lost at sea, right? You are not lost at sea. It just means that you're swimming in a different ocean, right? You're not in the Pacific, you're in the Atlantic. That's it. They're both water. There's a lot of both. I personally prefer swimming in the Pacific Ocean of observer. I've decided that the Pacific Ocean is the observer ocean and the Atlantic Ocean is the decider ocean, because I said so, right? So I feel more comfortable here on the West Coast. I feel more of an affinity towards the Pacific Ocean. I don't know what to tell you. I feel the Moana vibes from the Pacific. What are you gonna do, right? But that doesn't mean that if I'm plopped down into the Atlantic that I can't suddenly not swim. I'm still swimming. It's still water. It's still a beach. We're fine. It's still fine. And I think that you'll realize that once you start to break that axis, it just means you're going to connect with different people. And that, to me, an observer, especially as a lead OI, is fucking terrifying. That, like, oh my God, wait a minute. I'm going to connect with different nope. You got to do it. You got to do it. Super worth it. And I'll close on this little anecdote. I'm in a very fortunate position. My family's company has been deemed essential. We're all doing fine. I'm doing fine. But I have a lot of artist friends who are trying to figure out how to make shit work. And a while ago, so my parents and I, we watched the show Schitt's Creek. We loved the show. And we decided to buy it together on Amazon Prime so that we could watch it before it hits Netflix, right? I was telling a friend about this, and she is hardcore decider. I love her to death. I've learned so much about deciderness from her. And we were talking about it, and she was like, I cannot believe you get to watch Schitt's Creek, right? And so I set up a new Amazon account, and I bought the season of Schitt's Creek, and I gave her the login number, and she lost her goddamn mind. It was so fulfilling, you guys, because it was I was like, you know what? You human matter to me, right? It's the you matter to me, you human right now. And I want to do this thing because you matter to me. And I want you being happy makes me happy. I don't give a fuck about control and chaos. I just want you to be happy. And I want us to be able to share in this thing that we both love. It costs me a lot less than it costs you, but I'm going to do it. Boom. Right? So that's, it's a tiny example. It's a dumb example, but it's those little tiny things that you can start to do to play the decider game that'll make you go like, wait a minute. There's a whole half of the world. There's a whole half of the board that I'm missing. And one thing that I've really been struggling with is like, as you become more and more growth mindset, it's like, well, if I feel like I'm seeing the whole board, where am I going to go? Like, what half am I missing? And for me, it really is this decider game and being able to go, oh, fuck. Yep, that's it. That's my next real task in life, is not just getting in touch with my NF, but it really is playing the EJ IP game and recognizing that that's different than playing the Blast Play IJ game, right? We're doubling up on similar things, me and Tony Robbins, but his EJ-ness is very, very different. So all of that is to say, it's worth breaking your patterns. I promise it's worth it. It will feel uncomfortable momentarily, but the more work you do, the more effort you put into it, the less amount of time it's going to feel uncomfortable. All right, that's all I got for today. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check out the Facebook group. Check out objectivepersonality.com, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.